that not a beautiful sight? Wouldn't you agree? Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Cheryl Hurst, the Director of Education and External Relations here at KSC, and it's my honor to be the MC for this ceremony this morning. I want to thank all of our industry partners, senior executives, friends, family, everyone who's come out today to enjoy this wonderful moment. As you noticed, leading the Atlantis parade there was the Meriden High School Honor Guard and Titus School High School Band. Let's give them a round of applause. Also accompanying Atlantis to bringing up the rear are our very important current and former NASA astronauts and family members, shuttle workers, spaceflight awareness honorees, and a representative from every KSC directorate. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, if you would please join me in standing for our national anthem by Miss Sarah Weeks from Kennedy Middle School.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Sierra, that was beautiful. What a great day to be an American. Now our first special guest this morning is the first commander of Atlantis, STS-51J. I'd like you to welcome Colonel Carol Bob Bobko to the stage.
Good morning. It was my honor to be the first commander of the Atlantis, and my pleasure to be here for the next phase of Atlantis' journey. My first flight was on the Challenger, the first flight of Challenger, and we had to wait while they did flight readiness firing after flight readiness firing to clear the vehicle for flight. My second flight was on Discovery, and on that flight, we had gotten close enough 3 times that they made patches and then canceled them. And so I have 4 patches which look almost the same, but not quite. My third flight was the first flight of Atlantis, and it went on time to the second. As a matter of fact, my wife had come to me a month or so before and said, you know, I have an opportunity to do a program in Baltimore. And she said, I think it's going to be the day that you guys might be landing. And she didn't know for sure because Atlantis was a military mission, and they wouldn't tell you exactly what time it took off or even what day it was going to land. So I said, Diane, remember Challenger and all the FRFs. Remember Discovery and all our patches. This is the first flight of Atlantis. You make the call. So she set up to go to Baltimore, and as it turned out, that was the exact time that the Atlantis flew and landed. And so she met me at Edwards, gave me a peck on the cheek, and then took off for Los Angeles to go to Baltimore. So we had underestimated the capability of the whole system down here to become mature and meet a launch date well ahead of a long time before it was planned. So for me, Atlantis represents something that reflects the maturity, the reliability, and the capability of the space program. We had some tragedies afterwards, but for the people down here, I looked to Atlantis and said, this is when they were able to do what they said they were going to do. So it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Now, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the commander, the final commander of Atlantis, STS-135's mission, Captain Chris Ferguson.
Well, thank you, and good morning. And gosh, isn't it just a beautiful morning for an event like this? I am fortunate enough to represent the entire STS-135 crew who came today, Doug Hurley, Rex Walheim, Sandy Magnus. And I thought very quickly I'd just like to share two stories, very quick stories with you about our last day on that vehicle. We had a very busy mission. There were only 4 of us. We were running a race to the wall, I called it. But we always knew that at the time there might be a moment at the end where we could truly appreciate what the nation had built here. And that time came the night before deorbit, the night before the very last deorbit, before the last landing. And our work was done. We had an opportunity to stare out the window a little bit. And as Bill Moore was just telling me down here, Atlantis's final configuration in the visitor center will be in about a 45-degree left angle of bank. And that's about the attitude we were in. I was in the commander's seat looking out the window, and I looked down, and we looked around at each other, and we thought to ourselves, this is really it. After 30 years of building a space station, deploying countless payloads, and changing the world, this is the very last night that a space shuttle will be on orbit. Weather in Florida notwithstanding, of course, but it turned out to be the case. And it was a very poignant moment. You know, personally, I was sad, but in hindsight, it was incredibly, I was incredibly proud to just be a part of it, and I'm sure I speak for the entire crew. And the other moment came earlier that day where we had just put away the robotic arm. And we had tried to prepare for most of the major events that occurred on that last mission, but I think that between Doug and I, we kind of forgot about this one a little bit. And we put the arm away. I looked at Doug, Doug looked at me, and we thought, what are we going to say? And we didn't really have anything prepared. And right on cue, the best Capcom in the universe, Megan MacArthur, came up, and she listed every payload that a space shuttle arm had deployed and every major event and assembly mission that it had been a part of for the International Space Station. And I thought, wow, just what a perfect team. And it was a very fitting closure to an incredibly successful space shuttle arm program as well. So now Atlantis will continue its life. Its life of exploration is complete, and it will go on in what I consider to be just an incredibly fitting facility right over the hill here. And its life of exploration will pick up, or its life of education will pick up from this point forward, and I'm sure it will inspire generations of young men and women for decades to come. So thank you very much for allowing us to be a part of this event, and please let us continue. Thanks.
Thank you, Commander. Now please join me in welcoming the Chief Operating Officer of Delaware North Company's Parks and Resorts, the operator of our Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, Mr. William Moore.
I have no idea how these guys feel in space, but this is an emotional moment for me. To have this vehicle behind us and thank all of you for all you've done for so many years and decades. We wouldn't have this opportunity if not for all of you. This is truly an historic day for NASA, for the Kennedy Space Center, for the Visitor Complex, for the first crew that flew her to the last. For everybody that worked on the Space Shuttle program, and thank you all for being here today. Atlantis stands as a symbol of inspiration for people around the world. It inspired us all in a launch pad, it inspired us in space, and it will inspire us again today as it starts a new journey. Thanks to NASA, the public will experience Atlantis dramatically displayed, elevated, and rotated as though we were flying in space, as Chris Ferguson said, in a new $100 million exhibit just over the way at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. Millions of visitors will come to find the 60 interactive displays about the Space Shuttle program, including its key roles with the International Space Station and with the Hubble telescope, and how it paved the way for today's new coming manned space programs. With Atlantis, the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex is really the only place in the world to see space-flown artifacts from all 4 manned space programs and the rockets that flew those amazing astronauts and crew into space. Humble opinion, but the Visitor Complex is unquestionably the best place to experience and learn and be inspired about mankind's journey into space. On behalf of Delaware North Companies, I want to thank NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden, Kennedy Space Center Director Bob Cabana, for entrusting us to take care of this magnificent vehicle behind us. We are absolutely thrilled to become its stewards. We all look forward to July of 2013. I'm sure most of you will be there. We'll open it up for exhibit and can't wait for you to come see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Now I'd like to introduce to you our Center Director, the 10th Center Director of the Kennedy Space Center, a veteran of 4 Space Shuttle missions, Center Director Bob Cabana.
Thanks, Cheryl. Thanks to all of you for coming here today to be a part of this. I first saw the wings of the Space Shuttle Atlantis on the floor of Grumman's facility in Bethpage, New York on Long Island when I was a young test pilot in the early 80s. In 1985, when Bo and his crew were flying Atlantis, I watched closely as a new astronaut candidate, seeing what the future might hold for me. And in July last year, I watched with great pride alongside our administrator, Charlie Bolden, as Fergie and his crew brought Atlantis home for the very last time. It's something that we can all be extremely proud of. Today marks the end of a phenomenal 30-year program for the Space Shuttle. It was very sad, but you know, it's okay this morning when we watched Atlantis roll out of the VAB for the very last time. Because although it's the end of Atlantis flying in space, it's not the end. It's not the end for KSC. We're charging into the future, preparing for commercial operations to low Earth orbit, for exploration once again beyond our home planet, continuing to meet NASA's science missions with our expendable rockets to get our science missions to Mars and further. And it's not the end for Atlantis, because Atlantis now takes on a mission of inspiration to future generations. When I was 5 years old, we took a trip to visit my aunt from Minneapolis and Baltimore, Maryland. And I distinctly remember going to the Smithsonian and looking up and seeing the Wright Flyer in the Spirit of St. Louis hanging from the ceiling. And that sparked in me a desire to fly. And it is my sincere hope that one day some young boy or girl is going to look at Atlantis and it's going to spark that dream of exploration in space, exploring beyond our home planet and building on all the wonderful things this team has accomplished in the last 30 years and is going to continue to do. So, from me to all of you, my heartfelt thanks for your dedication, your drive, your hard work, your spirit of discovery that has made all of this possible and continues to make KSC and NASA the great place that it is to work as we charge off into the future. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our administrator, Charlie Bolden, the Honorable Charlie Bolden, okay? Now, a lot of folks would think that's pretty cool, but Charlie, more importantly, is one of the outstanding commanders of Atlantis. Charlie, come on up here.
I was telling Chris Ferguson when he sat down, I said, it's not fair. And I was asking him if it was because he's from Philadelphia or what. You know, I've been with Chris and the crew, throughout the final flight and the landing and everything else. And I'm always impressed by the four of them and the way that they have carried this, it's not a burden, but it's an awesome responsibility to be the representatives of the space program as the final crew to fly a vehicle in a program. And they have done it incredibly well, and Chris is always so eloquent when he talks. Bob is always so eloquent when he talks, and then I come up here with notes. But I have to, because I'm not quite as suave and debonair as are they. I do want to thank the Merritt Island High School Color Guard and the band and others over there, and Sierra, you were awesome. Let me tell you, the national anthem is hard. Most professionals who try it really mess it up. You were beautiful today, and I thank you so much for honoring us by singing that. Bob, thanks very much for the introduction, and thanks for letting me be a part of this program. It's just wonderful to be back here at KSC and to be with the KSC workforce. And as I look out and as I had an opportunity to talk to a lot of you this morning, because we were out here like 6 o'clock, they were doing a brief, and then rolling out at 6:30, it's really special to be here with you and with my old friend Atlantis. I know there's Dave Leetsma. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, even with my glasses, and I know Dave Leetsma's over there. And I'm not calling names, but I was looking for my crew members who were with me on Atlantis, and there's somebody back there and all that. But it's great to be here. Dave and I were among the crew and the backups who had the privilege of celebrating the anniversary of, the 20th anniversary of STS-45, which was my single flight on Atlantis. And we were in Brussels, Belgium, and Atlantis was the focus of Space Week in Belgium. I tell you that only because I want you to recognize the significance that the shuttle program has had and will continue to have. And that was not about history. That program was about the future in Belgium, in another country, where they see what we started with Shuttle, and they're just hopeful that we won't give up and that we'll continue. Bo, I want to thank you for being here. Chris, I've already said how much I appreciate your being here. I want to let everybody know something. You know, today is a historic day. It's an incredibly historic day. But I don't preside over an agency that's in the history business. That's not what NASA does. We're not a history organization. We're in the business of creating the future. And we're in the business of taking science fiction and turning it into science fact. And I think most of you here realize that. That's what we do. We take things that people say are impossible, and we make them possible. We dazzle people at the way we do it. It's always fun to come down here because this is one place in the world where you guys and girls take something, people say it cannot be done, and you just go do it. And the problem with you is you make it look too easy. You know, you just make it look too easy. What we do is not easy. What we do is incredibly difficult. And you should be very proud about what we have done through the incredible 30 years of the shuttle program. It's also difficult to make a transition. Really difficult to make a transition. You know, Bo was there, I was there. There are some of us who were there between Apollo and Shuttle. Or if you want to really get to it, between Apollo Soyuz and Shuttle, or between Skylab and Shuttle. There was a break. And it was a painful break, particularly for people who had been a part of the Apollo program. There's some people who still don't want to let it go. But you know, that happens. That's life. You have to just sometimes say, okay, we did great things, and now we're on to greater things. This magnificent ship behind me is tangible representation of a great nation, our hopes and dreams. We couldn't be where we are, poised for tomorrow's progress, without the space shuttle. And there are more exciting things happening right now here at KSC as well as around the agency. A little over a year after the shuttle retired, just this week, we completed the first commercial resupply mission to the International Space Station. A little company called SpaceX launched Dragon from right over there at Cape Canaveral. It's the first of many such launches, and we're well on track to once again launch American astronauts from U.S. soil in the next few years, right here from the Kennedy Space Center. I see Mark Sarangelo there. Chris Ferguson now represents Boeing. You know, these are companies that believe in the future, and they believe they can make that happen. And I think it's all we can do is trust them the way that we have trusted American industry from the beginning of time. They'll get it done. I'm excited about it. The passion and the dedication of the KSC workforce, all of you out here, you allowed us to proudly operate Shuttle for an absolutely incredible 3 decades. That same pride and dedication in today's KSC workforce will send us to new destinations like an asteroid, Mars, once again launching from right here at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. With your exceptional support, we'll restore those awe-inspiring moments of human spaceflight for the next generation of explorers. Those students, some of them probably over there in that band, or maybe even Sierra. Those students who are studying right now to lead us in exploration of the most incredible exploration era ever. It's now NASA's honor to permanently house this magnificent spacecraft right here, where she rose to the skies 33 times, carrying 156 men and women. She's truly a testament to American ingenuity, to the dedication and passion of this workforce, and of our nation to reach higher than ever and do what has not been done before. The Space Shuttle program has been a proud achievement for our nation. With 30 years of missions launching satellites like Magellan and Galileo aboard Atlantis, expanding our international partnerships with visits to Mir and flying crew members from around the world, building the International Space Station and demonstrating that America, indeed, the world, had a new home and has a new home in low Earth orbit. Those of us who flew Atlantis will never forget the experience, as Chris talked about. For those who made that possible here at Kennedy by processing this amazing vehicle time and time again, to those who watched in awe as she launched and maneuvered in space and did incredible things, those memories, the inspiration, that passion is still yours. America still leads the world in exploration, and we're building on the many fine accomplishments of the Space Shuttle program to take us where we've not gone before, to places where our imagination and our aspiration tells us we can go if we channel the passions that built and launched Atlantis and create a new day. Atlantis' final mission may have closed out the Space Shuttle program, but the spirit that created that program and built her is very much alive as we develop the technologies and systems not only for private companies to serve our needs in low Earth orbit, but to keep us on the road to an asteroid, to Mars, and places beyond. I want to thank all the crews here today who flew Atlantis in space. I want to thank the workforce that sent her successfully to orbit again and again. And I also want to thank the American public at large for making this incredible dream and achievement possible that we all share today. Our best days are ahead of us, with the shuttle as our tailwind. Godspeed, Atlantis, on your next mission of inspiration and motivation. And now I'd like to ask Bob Cabana, Bo, Chris, Bill, and Cheryl to join me up here on the stage while we do what we came up here to do.
Every year. There you go. There's that. You're still looking like you know what to do.
I'm trying. This is hard. Don't bump my arm.
Charlie, your signature may get bad enough you could write a prescription.
I know I could be a doc. I could do that. Too good. Let me see. I think I give you one, Cheryl. And one to Bill. You got yours, Bill? Bob and I will take one. You guys come on up close.
Well, first of all, Charlie.
Oh, no.
How do we want to do this?
One more down. Oh, just one down.
All right. You're going to need one.
Oh, you want to see it?
All right. Wait a minute. All right. Maybe we should. All right.
So we're going to be bringing over a copy to each one of the command post, and you'll have an easel where you can go take a photo of one of these if you'd like at the command post. And then for this group, we have a visitor. We'll have one up here also on the easel if you want to get close-up photos of the title transfers. So this concludes our ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay as long as you would like to view Atlantis as she continues on her journey. Thank you for coming, and enjoy your day.
And so with that, the title of OV-104, Space Shuttle Atlantis, has been assigned from NASA to the Kennedy Space Center for permanent display at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. In a document signed 4 times by NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden and Kennedy Space Center Director Bob Cabana. It's official. Atlantis is retired and moving on to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex.